Hey, what's up YouTube? Dan the Fix-It Man. Got another quick video here for you. I'm going to show you how to change your front brake pads and rotors on a 2007 Honda Accord. Now this is the 4-cylinder model and the process is pretty much the same as the 6-cylinder model, but the torque specs are different. Now the first thing that I like to do is push this caliper piston back inside the caliper, which will give us the room that we need for the new pad material and of course the new thicker rotors. There's lots of ways to do this. You can pull off the caliper and push it back with the caliper compression tool, or you can just put something in through this little opening right here and wedge that up against the rotor and pull that towards you, which will push the caliper piston back in. Now what that's doing is pushing the brake fluid back up this line into the master cylinder. Now we do need to pop the hood and take a look at that master cylinder to make sure that there's enough room for that additional fluid and it's not going to overflow and make a big mess. Now as an alternative method, you could also crack open this bleeder screw, put a little hose on there, and you could push this caliper piston back in, and that will expel the old fluid out through this bleeder screw as you push it back in. And that's a good way to cycle through your brake fluid. Now I recently changed the brake fluid in this vehicle, so we're not going to worry about that right now. Let's just make sure that there's enough room in the master cylinder so we're not going to overflow that and make a big mess. All right, now here's the master cylinder, and a lot of times if you can see through that, you can verify where the level of fluid is. This one's pretty dirty and pretty caked up on there, so it's kind of hard for me to see inside. A lot of times I won't take the cap off because I don't like to expose the brake fluid to air, which has additional moisture. Because the brake fluid is hygroscopic, it attracts moisture and that causes it to degrade and go bad. But in this case, I can't quite see on the side, so I'm gonna go ahead and take the lid off and take a look at that fluid level and see where we're at. Now we're actually overfilled right now. This is filled all the way to the top. So I'm just gonna use this right here. This is a fluid extractor. It's fairly inexpensive. Just gonna put it right down in there and suck out some of that old fluid. Okay, I'm pulling out this little strain or screen so we can access the inside. We're just gonna use this little fluid extractor now and suck out some of the old fluid. There we go. All right, we'll put that little strainer back in and I'm gonna put the lid on it loosely. All right, now let's go push that caliper piston back in. Now if you notice, I have the wheel turned outward a little bit, and that's so that I can have a little bit more room to work. Now I'm just going to take a little pry bar here. This is the Mayhew Dominator series. I really like these pry bars. Just prying that caliper piston back in, slow and steady motion here. I'm going to shift the pry bar over in between the inside pad. Okay, that should be good. All right, now we need to loosen and remove these two slide pin bolts. These are 12 millimeter. Let's go ahead and break these loose. Now I'm going to pull off the caliper and use this hook right here to hang it up out of the way. Just going to hook this up on the coil spring up above. Now we can take out these little V-springs. Sometimes they'll push your pads out onto the ground, and we can pry out the old pads. There we go. Now just take note here to the little noisemaker. This little metal tab was on the inside pad at the bottom. All right, now we just need to remove these two larger caliper bracket bolts, and those are 17 millimeter. I'm just going to use this stubby 3/8 drive Capri socket on my 2960 Milwaukee. No problem at all. Now it's a good idea to hold on to this bracket as you take these bolts out so it doesn't drop to the ground. All right, now in order to get this rotor off, we've got this notorious Honda rotor screw here. We've got two of them, and sometimes those are stuck on there pretty good, and a lot of times they'll end up stripping, but I like to use this right here. This is an impact screwdriver. The way that this screwdriver works is you strike the back of it and it ratchets counterclockwise, so it prevents you from stripping that out. So let's give that a try. Got that one. Got it. And the rotor's coming right off with it. There it is. If you've got a Honda, I highly recommend you pick this up. This is from Vessel. It's their Impacta JIS3. Really makes these rotor screws a piece of cake. Now, as I mentioned, you can see our rotor's just falling right off. If it doesn't come off, you can always just give it a whack with the Rotor Remover 9000. It's also called a Tanya Harding, but this one just fell right off. All right, now before I put the new rotor on, I'm gonna clean this surface with a little wire wheel on a drill. Just make sure that you wear some safety glasses if you're gonna do something like this. If you live in a really rusty area, these can really get rusted to the hub, and so I highly recommend you do brush a little bit of this anti-seize on there. The copper seems to work better or last longer because it's a little higher temperature, but the aluminum stuff will work too. Now you don't want to get this on the studs or anything like that. Just the surface here of the hub seems to really prevent that from sticking. And the next guy will appreciate that you took the time to do that. If you get any on the lug studs here, just wipe it off. Now the rotors are packed in protective oil, so it's important that we wipe that off before we put them on. Okay, we'll just line that up. And you see I lined up the tapered holes here where those screws go. Now I usually do put these rotor screws back in, even though there seems to be a little bit of debate on that. A lot of people say that they're really not necessary because your lug nuts will hold the rotor on, of course, when you put the wheel on. These screws are probably really only there for manufacturing as far as keeping these rotors attached as this vehicle goes down the assembly line, but a lot of people argue that you don't need them, but if they come out okay, I usually just put them back in. Make them snug, but don't get too carried away. All right, now we need to get this bracket ready to go back on the vehicle, and what we're going to do is pop out this hardware here, and we're also going to clean and re-grease these slide pins. Now before I put the new hardware on there, I'm also going to get a wire brush and brush these recesses to prepare for the new hardware. And I also like to put a little coat of the caliper grease underneath those clips. That helps prevent the rust underneath from jacking that up. So just remember to wear some safety glasses if you're going to use a drill or a wire wheel on a drill like I'm going to use here. Let's go ahead and get these cleaned up. Now, as I mentioned, I'm going to do the slide pins too. Let's go ahead and just pop these out one at a time and clean them off. And then I'm going to brush some of this caliper grease on this slide pin here, and then we'll pop it right back in. Just press that in until it pops in place. You can see the boot kind of pops back up on there. You might have to give it a little squeeze to get rid of that air. And then let's pull out this side here. Same thing, we'll wipe that off, put some grease on there, and pop it back in. And just squeeze that boot as you push it in. Now I do have some brushes that will clean these recesses if they get stuck or if they get really dried out. These really weren't sticky or anything like that. So I just wiped them off, put on some new grease, and this should be good. As I mentioned, I like to put this really thin coat of grease underneath where these clips go, more as a protectant, not so much a lubricant, but it protects and prevents the rust from building up underneath those clips. All right, and then we can put the new clips in. Just line them up and press them down. They should sit nice and flush in there. The same with this one here, just snap it down. And because I got a little bit of grease here popping out the sides, I'll just kind of coat that. That looks good, and that's now ready to go back on the vehicle. All right, before I put that bracket back on the vehicle, I like to clean up the bracket bolts and put a little bit of thread locker on them. So this is just some blue medium strength here from Permatex. Oh, that's way too much. Perfect. Roll that around on the threads here, and that'll work. Just put that caliper bracket back on and get these started. All right, I'm just gonna zip these on at a really low setting here just to get them snug. All right, and then we can pop the pads back in. Remember, the noisemaker here goes at the bottom on the inside. Just put those in at a little bit of an angle and they should just slide right in. There we go. Before I put these V-springs in, I'm going to clean off the caliper, and I'm also going to get our grease on here so that the V-springs are the last thing that I'm putting on. So I'm going to grab the caliper here, just inspect the boot, make sure that that pushed in okay, which it did. Let's just brush some of this dirt and dust off here. Don't want to breathe that in, of course. All right, now I also like to use this stuff here, this Permatex Silicone Ceramic Extreme on the back of the shim. This just seems to cut down a little bit of the noise or the vibrations that do cause the noise with brakes. Just a really thin coat on the back seems to work just fine. Same with the inside pad here. All right, so here's the tricky part. You kind of have to use one hand to squeeze this together while putting on these V-springs, because they're just going to want to push your pads out onto the ground. So we need to carefully do this. and get this ready so that we can pull that caliper back down and put it over the pads. See, it's already trying to squeeze it out a little bit on me. I lost our inside one here. They're strong V-springs, let me tell you. And we grab our caliper down here and just try to slide that over and prevent those pads from popping out. Take off our hook there, and it should just slide over them. There we go. Put our caliper slide pin bolts back in. Just get those started by hand. All right, now I did this a little bit out of order. I should have torqued the caliper bracket bolts before putting on the caliper, but we can luckily still get to them. And we do need to torque these caliper bracket bolts to 79.6 foot-pounds. Now the torque spec on these smaller caliper slide pin bolts is 26 foot-pounds for the 4-cylinder model. If you're doing a V6, I believe it's 37 foot-pounds. And you're done. Now before you head off, it's very important that you do go inside the vehicle and step on the brake pedal to push the caliper piston back out, pressing those pads up against the rotor where they need to be. Now when you do this, don't push the pedal all the way to the floor. That can damage the seals in the master cylinder. Just press it down halfway several times until it feels firm. And then don't forget to double check the fluid level in your master cylinder as well. I hope you liked the video. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you don't mind. That does help me out. And of course, I'll get a link in the description where you can pick up some of the same parts and tools used in the video as well. Thanks so much for watching, and good luck.